All right, guys. Yeah, this is coming off the Federal Reserve website. So, on June 27, 2022, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System announced in a Federal Register notice that the Federal Reserve Banks will adopt the ISO 20022 message format for the Fedwire Fund Service in a single-day implementation strategy on March 10, 2025. Then, effective November 21st, 2022, the Federal Reserve Banks will implement changes to the Fedwire Funds Service proprietary message format in tag 8200, unstructured addenda information to support cross-border ISO 20022 interoperability via a market practice. Now, I'll go over later what a market practice is. Whereas SWIFT Target 2, operated by the European Central Bank, and Euro 1, operated by EBA Clearing, are expected to begin fully enhanced ISO 20022 messages. So Europe is going to be starting the fully enhanced ISO 20022 messages, whereas the Fedwire Funds Service is going to be doing a market practice. To me, that looks like two completely different things. All right, so what is the ISO 20022 U.S. market practice? It is to reduce the risk of cross-border interoperability issues given that the Fedwire Fund Service has not yet migrated to the ISO 20022 format. A group of U.S. global banks worked with the Federal Reserve Banks to create a market practice for mapping SWIFT ISO 20022 messages to the proprietary Fedwire Fund Service message format. When a SWIFT ISO 20022 message contains data that cannot be fully mapped into the proprietary Fedwire Fund Service message format, the market practice provides guidance for how to map the ISO 20022 message to tag 8200. So the market practice just provides guidance on how to map the ISO 20022 message to the tag 8200. So it's just providing guidance. That's really all it is. All right. The Reserve Banks plan to recommend to the board that the implementation date be later than November 2023. In developing a revised implementation date to propose to the board, the Reserve Banks are considering industry feedback from the October 2021 notice. So some things that they're recommending is a gap between the 2023 launch of the FedNow service and the ISO 20022 implementation for the Fedwire Funds Service. The Reserve Bank should provide at least 1 year for industry testing of the ISO 20022 messages. All right, so the Reserve Banks are also collaborating with the Clearinghouse Payments Company, LLC, operator of the chip system to explore a potential staggered implementation approach to mitigate the risk of two large value systems implementing a significant change on the same day. In light of these developments, the Fedwire Fund Service participants should prepare for the possibility that the ISO 20022 implementation date will be during the first quarter of 2025. The board will announce the final implementation date in a future Federal Register notice. So, then I typed in, when does the Fedwire Fund Service go live for ISO 20022 implementation? It says March 10th, 2025. When you type that into Google. All right, so this is also off the Federal Reserve website. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System is announcing that the Federal Reserve Banks will adopt the ISO 20022 message format for the Fedwire Fund Service on a single day, March 10, 2025. The board is also announcing a revised testing strategy, backout strategy, and other details concerning the implementation of the ISO 20022 message format of the Fedwire Fund Service. When is this implementation date? The implementation date, March 10th, 2025. All right, so here's the press release that everybody was waiting for. The Federal Reserve Board announces the final timeline and implementation details for adoption of the new Fedwire Fund Service message format. This is the final timeline. They cannot change the date. So, well, at least they say so. The Federal Reserve Board on Monday announced the final timeline and implementation details for the adoption of a new Fedwire Fund Service message format. The final details are broadly similar to the proposal issued last year. The board confirmed that the new message format, ISO 20022, will be adopted on a single day as proposed last year rather than in 3 separate phases. The board also provided a new timeline for implementation based on review of public comments with the new message format to be adopted on March 10th, 2025. In addition, the board provided further information regarding customer testing and other implementations. So again, the final timeline is March 10th, 2025. All right, guys, stay tuned for more videos. I have like 7, 8 videos, along with a couple dreams that I've had, even a Mr. Pool dream, if you guys know who Mr. Pool is. So stay tuned for more videos.